Good morning. What is up, everybody? Matt Moda here with another live stream of NBA Fast Break Bets on the Betting Pros YouTube channel. Everybody here knows this by now. We're live 11 a.m. every Wednesday and Friday, going through the NBA betting slate, giving out at least one pick for each game. Today, we have an 8-game slate, so we're going to have one pick for every game and then a couple of games where we'll have multiple picks. The one thing that I do want to preface before we get going is that currently, for whatever reason, there are no player props listed for the Celtics and Magic game. So unfortunately, I'm not going to have anything for that game because none of the main lines really spoke to me at all. So I would just suggest if you really want to bet that game, like if you're a fan of the Celtics or the Magic, just check out the Betting Pros socials, check out the website /app. Once props get posted, you'll definitely be able to find plays. I still have 10 total, just not going to have anything in that one. Last stream, we continued our bounce back. So that now makes it 3 straight profitable streams in a row since we had that horrible day a couple weeks ago. On Wednesday, 10 picks, 9 of them ended up actually playing because one got refunded. We went 6-3 plus 4.39 units in that stream. That brings our total profit season to date up to 8.68 units. Hey, not bad. Betting every single game for every Wednesday and Friday slate, being plus 8 units, not bad. So if you've been tuning in, appreciate it. If you could like, subscribe, comment, all that good stuff. You can find me on social media at my handle you see on the screen here. And then I already see some people in here. The last thing that I want to preface is get all questions, comments, concerns, anything that you have in the chat. When you see me look over, it's because I'm checking the chat. I see some people in here already. Kendall, Jedi Modai has made me 6K. That's awesome. Sani asking about Zion Williams. I'm guessing that's Zion Williamson. We actually will get to him. Andre Singer. It's been a good week. I appreciate you commenting and tuning in to everything. It's been a good week. Let's hope we can end it with an awesome day. Let's get right into the picks. So the first game that we're going to talk about is the Pelicans versus Hornets game. We're taking Zion Williamson, 25 plus points. It's even money, plus 100 odds at FanDuel. So Sani asking about Zion Williams. Yeah, I wasn't kidding when I said we were going to get to him. So this was a play that I kind of found using the Betting Pros app. Their cheat sheet projects him to score 25 points. In this one, just over 25 points. So I kind of liked getting even money for this one. We can get plus 100 odds for something that Betting Pros projects him to score over. Now, looking at the matchup, I was on Zion on Wednesday. He ended up not playing, which was a bummer. But my logic for that was he was playing the Wizards, who are one of the worst teams in the NBA in terms of allowing points in the paint. Now, the Hornets are not quite the Wizards, and they're not quite the Pacers. But they're also very much not good in the category of allowing points in the paint. They allow 53.3 points in the paint. That is 24th in terms of points allowed in the paint in the NBA. I did a whole deep dive on Zion for Wednesday's show. The Spark Notes is that he attempts over 96% of his attempts. 96% of his shot attempts, I should say, are in the paint. We all know that's where Zion likes to eat. After a horrible start to the year, he's been playing much better recently. He didn't get to 25 points in his first 4 games, and he only did it once in his first 9. And the one that he did, he scored exactly 25. Since then, he has scored at least 25 points in 8 of his 11 games. Now, he sat out Wednesday with an ankle injury. He's currently listed as questionable, so it's kind of the same thing. If he ends up not playing, it'll just be refunded. No harm, no foul. I think that he'll play because he was questionable and ended up not playing. I think the extra couple days rest will help him. He should have a good game if he ends up playing against the Hornets. If not, again, we'll just get it refunded. That's our first play. Next up in the Pistons versus Sixers game, I'm taking Tyrese Maxey, 30 plus points, plus 195 odds at FanDuel. I know that on one of the plays that we did not get to cash on Wednesday was Maxey 30 plus points. But honestly, the fact that he had such a bad game, that honestly makes me like him even more in this one. It's the ultimate flip-flop method, which everybody knows that at least has been tuning in, is a strategy that I love betting specifically for the NBA in situations like this. The Pistons and Sixers just played on Wednesday, and Maxey had his lowest point total of the year. He only scored 9 points. It's the only time this year he has gone below double digits, that he didn't even get to double digits. And it's only one of 4 games in which he didn't even get to 20 points. Clearly an outlier. And prior to Wednesday's game, he had been playing really, really well. Maxey, he had scored 30 plus points in 3 of his previous 5 games. prior to Wednesday's game against the Pistons. One of those games, he only had 24 points, but he did that in 24 minutes because the Sixers blew the doors off of the Wizards in that game. That could happen again. The Pistons could get blown out again, but I actually think this one's going to be a little bit closer because the last game was a blowout, another flip-flop method there. The first time that the Pistons played the Sixers, Maxey put up 29. So he didn't quite get to 30, but it wasn't like he had a bad game. So I don't think there's any situation where it's a matchup difficulty for Maxey. If anything, it's the literal opposite. The Pistons are the matchup that you want to target for opposing point guards. That's why I liked Maxey on Wednesday in the first place. The Pistons allow the most points per game to opposing point guards. And again, that includes Wednesday where Maxey had a pretty bad game. So I think that he gets right in this one. I think he gets us to 30 points, cashing plus 195. A couple comments here. I learned that it's from a movie, but can it be for men? Moda for president. Maybe I'll run in a couple years, not this term. Space cram, flop your picks, not your shoes. That's right. You don't want to flip-flop your shoes. That's good logic there. All right. Before we get into our next pick, I do want to talk about the Discord. So I mentioned that if you're looking to bet the Celtics Magic game, you have to look a little bit later because player props aren't posted. One area in which you could get picks for that game is the Betting Pros Discord. You can find it bettingpros.com/chat. Another avenue in which you can get picks. So if you're looking to up your sports betting game, I would suggest looking no further than the Discord community at Betting Pros. In the Discord, I'm in there, first of all. You can also find other expert handicappers giving you free picks, not just for NBA, but for NFL, college basketball, college football, NHL, player props, live betting if you're into that, futures if you're into that. I recommend getting in on the action, bettingpros.com/chat. You can connect with sports betting enthusiasts such as yourselves, and you can also gain strategy for your own bets by getting insights from the pros. So join us today. Again, I'm in there. Take your sports betting experience to the next level in the Betting Pros Discord. Next up, we have Pacers versus Wizards game. I'm taking Tyrese Haliburton, 30-plus points. This is at plus 155, best offered at BetRivers. If you're like me and you don't use BetRivers, which reasons we'll not get into, it's plus 140 at FanDuel. Why not? Let's get weird and back both Tyreses to get to 30-plus points. Similar to Tyrese Maxey, Haliburton is also on somewhat of a cold streak recently. So this is another situation where we are fading recent results. And his cold streak for Haliburton has been longer than Maxey's. Maxey's is really just his last game. Haliburton hasn't scored 30 or more points in his last 4 games. Excuse me. But prior to that, Haliburton was on fire. At the end of November, he was on fire. So his main line for this game is 27.5. That's something that he hasn't even cleared that in the past 4 games. So not only has he not gotten to 30, he hasn't even gotten above 27.5. But prior to this 4-game stretch, Haliburton had scored 30 or more points in 4 of his last 5 games. So that's just the nature of the NBA. It's only natural for the downswing to come a little bit after being hot for 5 games isn't a super long stretch, but still 30 plus in 4 or 5 games is pretty good. It's only natural that things are going to ebb and flow the other way. So for this one, I'm essentially calling my shot that things are going to start to swing back up for Tyrese Haliburton. Luckily, the matchup here is about as juicy as it gets if you're a scorer in need of getting back into your scoring ways. The Wizards have the worst defense in the NBA, according to net rating. They allow the most points per game in the NBA as well. Haliburton should be able to feast in this one. Next up, same game. We're still sticking with the Pacers versus Wizards. We're taking Bruce Brown, 2+ made 3-pointers, plus 300 odds at FanDuel. So this is the same game, obviously, just a different way of backing the Pacers offense. This time, Bruce Brown from deep. Similar logic to backing Tyrese Haliburton. It's really just a play on how bad the Wizards defense is. Now, if you just look at raw 3-pointers given up per game, the Wizards are mostly middle of the pack, right? They're not terrible. They're not great. They're in the middle. But in terms of guarding the 3-point line, specifically against guards, that's where they're bad. They are literally the worst team in the NBA against specifically guards from 3-point range, ranked 30th out of 30 teams, again, against guards specifically. Now, Bruce Brown, I'm laughing at a comment, Wizards ranked top 3 in Shaqtin' a Fool moments. If you can get over 2.5 Shaqtin' a Fool moments for the Wizards, I would play that. It's probably not great odds, but I think that's probably going to hit for you. Looking at Bruce Brown, I'm not saying that he's a knockdown shooter, but he'll shoot when he's open, and he'll shoot in general. He should be open a lot against the Wizards because they don't play defense. Now, on the season, Bruce Brown has only made 2 or more in 5 games. He last did it against the Heat. That was at the beginning of December when he had 4. So it's admittedly been a little bit since he's done it. But he's still shooting, which I like. The past 2 games, he's attempted a combined 7 3-pointers. In his last 10, he's averaging just under 4 attempts per game. So again, he hasn't completely stopped shooting. And this specific matchup, again, the Wizards are really bad. The last time these 2 teams played, Bruce Brown attempted 8 3-pointers and he made 6. Now, I'm not expecting anything that crazy, but I would not be surprised if he had another good game against this joke of a Wizards team. Again, he should have a ton of open looks. And even if he only gets up 4 attempts, they're probably going to be high quality attempts that he could cash 2 of. And if he does, we're cashing plus 300. Pretty juicy odds there. So that's 4 picks down. We had a back-to-back on the Pacers Wizards. Before I get into the next one, I saw a comment here asking about the premium trial. Well, if you want a 1-year premium or a possible chance to get 1 year of the premium subscription, we are doing a giveaway. So if you want a chance at a premium 1-year subscription to Betting Pros, I mention all the time how I use the app, the Prop Bet Cheap Sheet's amazing. We'll get into that in a little bit. But in general, the premium subscription is a place for you to bet smart, not bet hard. All you need to do to be entered for this giveaway is subscribe to the Betting Pros YouTube channel, which hopefully you've already done. If not, definitely would appreciate it if you could subscribe. And then also comment on the video. And that's it. Those 2 things, subscribe and comment. We're going to announce a winner right here on the channel. So make sure to turn notifications on so you can be notified when new episodes drop. And then you can also come in and claim your prize. So again, 1 year under 11.5 rebounds. This is at plus 130 odds at DraftKings. Technically, his main line for rebounds is 12.5, but this is another play that I did find using Betting Pros. They project Wemby to have just above 10, like 10.3 is the exact number rebounds. So this is a situation, instead of pumping up a prop, I am deflating a prop, taking him to go 1 fewer rebound, but for pretty juicy odds at plus 130. Now, this is in line with my general betting strategy, and it's the ultimate fade of recent events. Now, it's also a fade of this exact play on Wednesday. On Wednesday, I was all over Wemby rebounds. I had him over 11.5. That cashed as he had 13. Now it's time to take the under. In his past 3 games, Wemby has had 20, 18, and 13 rebounds. So yeah, taking his overworked on Wednesday, but in general, his rebounds are starting to trend down. Now, I'm not saying that just because he went from 20 to 18 to 13, that means it's going to keep going down for the 4th straight game. I just think that in general, high swings tend to swing back the other way for not necessarily high lows, but you kind of know what I mean. When something is aggressively one way, the opposite tends to happen the other way. For the past 3 games, he's crushed his rebounds number. So I like fading these recent trends just because of how much he's been blowing it out of the water. I think that people are going to catch on, and that's when the under starts hitting. So that is our 5th play for this one. Again, the Wemby under rebounds. I see a chat about Anthony Davis. Even if AD is out, I still would take the under for Wemby, but we'll have to see about AD. He's questionable every single game, and he always ends up playing. He even played on a back-to-back, so we'll see. The next one that we're locking in here, same game, Lakers Spurs. We're taking LeBron James under 27.5 points. This is minus 114 odds at Bet Rivers. So again, first of all, this is our only non-plus money banger of the day. And this is similar to the Wemby play, where it's the ultimate fade of recent events. This and the Wemby play is probably our Pepto plays of the day because they're going to feel a little scary. And there's no doubt that LeBron's been playing really well recently. He scored, and I say technically, you'll understand why, scored 30 plus points in 3 straight games, but that doesn't include the in-season tournament where he only scored 24 points, but he still played really well. He had 11 rebounds and 35 minutes of play. Now, LeBron did miss the last game on Wednesday against the Spurs. So it was the second night of a back-to-back, so he rested. So this is not a play because he's had super tired or is going to have super tired legs. This is just a play because I'm fading those recent results from LeBron. On the year, he's only gone over 27.5 points in 9 of 23 games. And prior to this recent hot streak, he had gone under 27.5 points in 7 straight games. As good as LeBron still is at this age in his career, he's just not the consistent scorer the way that he used to be. So I think the fact that he's been hot recently, I think a cold streak is coming from a scoring department for LeBron. So I do like hopefully calling our shot that that's going to happen tonight against the Spurs. We're 6 picks deep. Now's the perfect time to talk to you about the Betting Pros app. I mentioned a ton how I use the app. I use it for straight positive EV plays. It helps me for pumped up / deflated props as well. You can find the app at bettingpros.com/apps. Number one is the cheat sheet that I want to talk about. The cheat sheet is where I get the projections that I mentioned from. You can find recommended picks based on Betting Pros projections and then the current lines that the sports books are offering. Betting Pros, that specific link is bettingpros.com/NBA props. You can filter by percent of positive expected value. You can filter by percent chance of just the bet itself winning. So if you're looking for like a bunch of parlay pieces, that's what I would recommend using the win percentage specifically for. And you can also filter by the difference of Betting Pros projections and the sportsbooks over-unders. A great way to find pumped up props. You can also find me and tail all my picks on the app at bettingpros.com/Modi. I also mentioned the premium subscription. Well, if you go to the app, you can at least get a free trial of the premium offerings. You can kind of get an idea of how it works. And then it also syncs with your sportsbooks, which I think is really cool. So it can track all your picks for you. It's not something that you need to do manually. So I definitely recommend checking out the app, bettingpros.com/apps. So we're 6 picks deep, 4 to go. Next up in the Hawks versus Raptors game, we're taking OG Anunoby, 20 plus points. This is at plus 180 odds at BetRivers. So this was, talking about the app, a play that I did find using the app. Technically, OG's main line over under is at 16.5. But again, this is the one that we're pumping up to 20 for juicy odds. Betting Pros projects him to score just under 19. So right around the number that we need him to get to. And this is another play that we were on Wednesday. We were on OG 20 plus points and he cashed. So this kind of goes in opposite of the flip flop method that I generally like to play. So it makes me a little bit nervous doing the opposite of that. But the reason why this was a play on Wednesday was because of the matchup, and that still exists today. On Wednesday's game between the Raptors and the Hawks, it was basically choose your fighter in terms of who you wanted on the Raptors of their main 3 scorers. Literally all 3 of Anunoby, Siakam, and Scotty Barnes went over their point total over-under. As I mentioned, OG scored 22. That was on an over-under of 15.5. Scotty Barnes scored 27 on an over-under of 17.5. And Siakam scored 32 on an over-under of 22.5. So between your 3 main scorers, there really was no option of doing a flip-flop method unless you wanted to fade one of them. I didn't want to do that. Instead, I wanted to back OG again because it's a matchup play. The Hawks allow literally the most points in the NBA, specifically to forwards. And OG has played well recently. So I do think that trend continues tonight as opposed to the flip-flop method. It's the flip method, I guess, is what we'll call this one. But I do like Anunoby to have a good game in this one. Next up, same game, Hawks versus Raptors. We're taking Trae Young under 29.5 points. This is at plus 114 odds at DraftKings. Technically, his main line for this one is 30.5, but this is another similar to the Wemby one, a deflated prop where I took it down just one number by 29 or 30.5 to 29.5 to get plus money odds. And I did find this one on the Betting Pros app so that his projected point total is under 29 for this one. So getting him under 29 at plus money, I think is definitely some good value. This one is also a little bit scary and also more in line with what I generally like to do, which is the flip-flop method. As I mentioned, these 2 teams just played on Wednesday. In that game, Trae scored 35 points. So again, betting the opposite of what recently happened. The reason why I like this play, generally the Raptors play tough defense against point guards. And it makes sense if you just think a little bit about the roster that the Raptors have. A ton of long, lanky defenders, making it difficult for smaller guards like Trae. Even Dennis Schroeder is a little bit bigger for a point guard. And in general, the Raptors allow the second fewest points per game, specifically to opposing point guards. That includes, obviously, the last game where Trae had a good game. Prior to the Raptors' last game against the Hawks, the previous 5 point guards against the Raptors had all gone under their point total over-under. Now, that includes starters, that includes bench guys. Just in general, the previous 5 point guards all went under. So Because Trae Young went over on Wednesday, I like for him to go under tonight. Hopefully he can come through for us under 29.5 points. That's our 8th play. 2 more to go. Next up in the Rockets versus Grizzlies game, we're taking Dillon Brooks, 3+ made 3-pointers, plus 300 odds at FanDuel. So this one is kind of similar to the Bruce Brown play earlier. It's a matchup play against the Wizards. Now, I mentioned the Wizards are middle of the pack in terms of raw 3-pointers allowed. That is not the Grizzlies. The Grizzlies defense isn't horrible overall. One area in which they are horrible is defending the 3-point line pretty much across the board. They allow the second most opponent-made 3-pointers in the NBA, but they allow the highest made percentage against. So they're only 21st in terms of 3-point attempts allowed, just in general, just attempts. But because they allow their opponents to shoot at such a high clip from beyond, they literally give up the second most made 3-pointers in the NBA. That's also true positionally against forwards, which is why we're targeting Dillon Brooks. The Grizzlies also allow the most the most made 3-pointers per game, specifically to the opposing shooting forward. Now, looking at this game, this is a revenge spot for Dillon Brooks. But I will admit, this will be the 3rd time that they've played. He had not fired away from deep like I would have expected the first 2 times that these 2 teams played. The first time, which was in Memphis, I thought he was going to shoot a ton. He only went he went 0 of 5. He didn't make one, went 0 of 5 from deep. The second time these 2 teams played in Houston, he only went 1 of 3. So he hasn't been shooting as much as I would have expected against his old team. I don't necessarily think that's going to continue for this game. Overall, Brooks has made 3+ 3-pointers in 4 games this year. But even if you take out the revenge spot, just given how poorly the Grizzlies guard the 3-point line and how much in general Dillon Brooks loves to fire away, I think that this one is pretty good, especially for plus 300 odds. If we just get this and the Bruce Brown one to cash, we're going to be pretty close to breaking even just on those 2 alone. So let's hope we can make it happen. Let's hope Dillon Brooks can come through for us. And then lastly, our final pick, 10th and final pick of the slate in the Knicks versus Suns game. I'm taking Devin Booker over 2.5 made 3-pointers. This is at plus 150 odds at Bet365. So for the last play of the slate, why not play an absolute banger that I did find on Betting Pros, a positive expected value play of 29.6%, 5 stars. They project him to make just over 2.5 3-pointers, a win percentage of just above 50% on this one. So the plus 150 odds is pretty juicy, considering they think it's the more likely outcome, or even if it's a 50-50 play, plus 150 odds is very good. And in general, looking at the matchup here, as good as Booker has been just from a scoring department, he's kind of miscast if people think that he's just a flamethrower from deep. That's not exactly his game. He's more of a mid-range scorer. On the year, he's only made 3 or more 3-pointers in 5 of 15 games. With that said, again, I do like him tonight. I'm still taking the over, despite all that said, tonight. The Knicks do play good defense, but this is more of a play on the Suns having their trio of guys healthy for the second time. Who knows? One of them could get ruled out over the course of the day. That's not currently the expectation. They're all 3 expected to play. So with that, with all 3 of them, the guess here is that Booker takes over a little bit more of a facilitator role and a little bit more of a spot-up shooter to let KD and Beal cook, as I'm guessing Booker really wants to make this work after getting knocked out of the playoffs and losing in the finals 3 years ago, and then 2 pretty embarrassing playoff losses the past 2 years. I think Booker really wants to make it work. So I think he's going to, at least at the beginning, again, facilitator, spot-up shooter. Last game, he went 2 of 6 from deep, but playing with Durant and Beal, he probably will continue to get more open looks. So even in this game, if he puts up another 6 attempts, I could see him getting to 3 just on open looks alone. Hopefully he does. If he does, he'll come through cashing plus 150 odds for us. And that's all we got. 10 plays, 9 plus money bangers for you guys to lock in. I appreciate everybody for tuning in, everybody in the chat. Appreciate you for being active. Make sure to subscribe to the Betting Pros YouTube channel if you are not already. And then if you want to be entered for the giveaway, subscribe and comment. Check out the Discord, bettingpros.com/chat. Check out the app, bettingpros.com/apps. And then again, you can find me basically anywhere at Jedi Modi. Appreciate everybody for watching and have a good weekend.